Hey, welcome back to my channel. In this video, we're going to be talking about personality and how your personality plays into your strengths and weaknesses when you are trying to negotiate. This is video 2 in a 6-video series. If you want to watch all the videos in this series, then just head to my channel and click on the Art of Negotiation playlist. The first topic we're going to talk about this week is personality. It's what makes you you. And it's important to take into consideration when you're planning your negotiation strategy. One of the most commonly used personality assessments is called the Big Five assessment, and it looks at you and your behavioral tendencies along 5 personality dimensions. So I'll name them here, and then there will be videos about each of them and how they might influence your approach to negotiation or your tendencies around negotiation. So number 1, the first dimension is where you land on the introversion extraversion scale. The second one is agreeableness on one end and disagreeable on the other end. Then we have conscientious compared with disorganized. The fourth is a spectrum from emotional stability to neuroticism. And the final is openness to experience balanced against caution. So each of these personality dimensions really does have an influence on your natural ability, your interest, your willingness, and your comfort level in negotiating. But I do want to say that personality can be expressed in many different ways. And so even though your personality is consistent, generally is consistent over time, you are able to modify your personality as needed in certain circumstances. And you know you do this all the time. How you interact with a group of children is probably very different than how you interact with your employees at work. I hope it's different. And how you interact with colleagues who are difficult might be different than how you might interact with one of your best friends. So we do modify our personalities, and it's important to start here because our personalities are really the foundation of how we are able to interact and really control our ability to negotiate effectively. The first personality dimension that I want to talk about is the extraversion-introversion spectrum. So if you are on the extroverted side of that spectrum, you are probably outgoing, you are sociable, you are seen as confident, assertive, maybe talkative. Many people actually think that I'm an extrovert. I'm actually not. I'm an introvert. And this is one of the great keys to negotiation, is that you actually do have the ability to temporarily modify the expression of your personality if you so choose. So where you land on the extraversion-introversion spectrum really does determine your level of ease with the performative nature of negotiation. So if you're on the extroverted side, it's probably going to come a little bit easier to do those things like, building a brand new relationship with an HR consultant or with a new manager or the third party recruiter and kind of schmoozing and building that rapport. It's probably also easier to get yourself in a headspace to feel confident in presenting on why you are deserving of the package that you're presenting back or the raise that you are asking for. So again, just because you are an introvert doesn't mean that you cannot negotiate effectively, but it will, understanding where you are, will help you to understand where you might need to provide a little bit of tender loving care to yourself, pump yourself up, and maybe do some work to set your mindset in a place where you need it to be going into that negotiation. The second personality dimension in the Big Five is the spectrum from agreeable to disagreeable. Now, if you're on the agreeable side of the spectrum, you're probably seen as being trusting, good-natured, cooperative, soft-hearted. This is a spectrum, this is a dimension where sometimes our conditioned nature as women is actually in conflict with our natural instincts. So as children, we are often taught, many of us are taught to be agreeable, right? To be willing to help others, to be compassionate. And this conditioning might run counter to who we actually are. So we might always have felt that we're not really that compassionate, that we really don't care, but that's the right way to act in public. And so, so you may find on agreeableness that it may be a little bit difficult to assess your own, like where you land on that spectrum, because there's a lot in the world that tells us as women that we should be very high on the agreeableness scale. What's interesting is that if you're under stress, sometimes that is the time when your true nature comes out. So most of the time you're going to find with your family has the opportunity to trigger you. Think about spending time with the family members who are somewhat triggering to you. These memories will give you a stronger understanding of where you lie on that agreeableness versus disagreeableness scale. Because your family is one group where you will honestly lose it on your family if it's justified, right? Whereas the conditioning holds so strong in public situations, it's very rare that we lose it on our bosses, that we show them anything but a willingness to work, to be collaborative, to get the work done, to get the job done. And this is absolutely a socially conditioned impact on our personalities. As a child, you might remember secret antiperspirant commercials with the tagline, "Never let them see you sweat." I mean, we've been told our whole lives that it's our job to make people comfortable. It's our job to be agreeable and supportive and compassionate and all of those things, right? And so within a negotiation, our agreeableness can actually be a liability. So we're in this environment where we're under stress, and under stress in an unknown environment, we will often revert to what we've been conditioned to, which is to be exceedingly agreeable, even when we know that some pushback is probably the right thing. The next spectrum that we'll talk about is conscientious versus disorganized. And disorganized might be better understood as stubborn. So if you're on the conscientious side of this spectrum, you're probably considered dependable, responsible, maybe achievement-oriented and persistent. On the other side, you're probably considered stubborn, inflexible, and you're somebody who digs her heels in. Now, you can see that there are probably benefits to both sides of this personality dimension when you're negotiating. So a conscientious person will be dependable in terms of coming back on time and following a process, whereas the person on the other end might play their own games, but also might be willing to stick to their guns. This is another dimension that is highly influenced by our environment. So as women, again, we grow up really encouraged to be malleable, to be dependable, to be supportive. And, as somebody who has a daughter that I would classify as extremely stubborn, we don't tend to see those as positive personality attributes in women. And unfortunately, we condition that stubbornness out of them a lot. So in a negotiation, you actually need to strive for a balance. Dependable in terms of ensuring your word is your bond, that when you say you're going to come back with your response, you come back. But also that stubbornness is important. And so, I really would encourage you to think about in your own life where you fall on that spectrum and what the blend of personality is that you need to bring within this particular dimension to your negotiation. The fourth personality dimension is emotional stability versus neuroticism. And this is one that is packed with all sorts of social conditioning and societal expectation and acceptability. So if you are on the emotionally stable side of the spectrum, you would be considered relaxed, secure, you're not a worrier. But this is a spectrum that spans from totally confident to totally insecure. And as women, generally we have a really distorted sense of our own emotional stability. We're told a million times a day that we're not good enough. So from the vanity sizes of our clothing that don't even fit average size women, to the expectation that we have to wear makeup to even be presentable within the workplace. Men who are constantly mansplaining to us because we aren't smart enough to understand or have our own thoughts. And you know, seeing countries that had once been democratic clawing back women's rights. These are all messages that we hear that tell us we are not equal and that we should be insecure. This is the patriarchy in action. This is actions in support of protecting the male ego by making women feel small. And the sad part is we perpetuate it against one another, and we perpetuate it against ourselves. Our ability, our natural ability to experience emotion, and emotion that is no different. If you look at babies, there's no difference between male babies and female babies and how they express that emotion. Emotion is suppressed by society as women get older, and we're told that it's not appropriate, and it's suppressed with men as well, but we're told that it's not appropriate for us to experience unless in certain circumstances, right? Behind closed doors, at home, in your office, in a bathroom stall with the door locked. But negotiation is an inherently emotional experience because it forces us to grapple with our own insecurity, with our sense of who we are. And while emotion can actually feel like a huge liability during this process, I am here to tell you that it is actually a strength. As a power, think about it as a force that can keep you aligned to your values and to your boundaries. It's a power that can help you stay honest with yourself. The fifth and final dimension is one that spans openness to experience to cautious. And so if you're considered open to experience, you might be considered intellectual, imaginative, curious, and broad-minded. So this spectrum really describes whether within a negotiation you are creative and willing to try new things, or you're more closed and practical and focused on narrow interests. And so it can affect your ability to negotiate effectively within this integrative negotiation style, because if you do fall on the more cautious side, you may be predisposed to focus on one or two really important things rather than identifying many trades and many opportunities for advancing your interests. So this one is important to really consider, and it is absolutely one that it doesn't have as much emotion attached to it, and it's a little bit easier to manipulate in those circumstances so that you can be open to creative solutions and to landing on an agreement that has mutual benefit for both parties. So these are the big 5 personality dimensions: extraversion, agreeableness, conscientiousness, emotional stability, and openness to experience. And every single one of these matters in a negotiation. Understanding your strengths, understanding where you sit on each of these spectra is important before you go into a negotiation, because it helps you to assess where your strengths are and where you might be challenged. I want to stop and just say you are perfect exactly how you are. Your personality has gotten you through this life, and it is amazing. You do have the option, if you want to temporarily modify the expression of your personality in a negotiation to optimize your results. This is optional, but it can be very effective. And the way that I would recommend you get started is by using the affirmations within each of those 5 dimensions. So the affirmations that I've provided, use them as mantras before you go into a negotiation. The ones, particularly the ones where that personality dimension isn't one where you fall on that end of the spectrum. So for example, if you're an introvert, you might want to remind yourself through a silent or a verbal mantra in your car, I am confident in my ability to put myself forward and ask for what I deserve. You might take this one step farther and journal on what those statements feel like to you. And more than what they feel like to you, what would somebody for whom that statement is true look like, act like? How would they behave? Write down those characteristics: eye contact, type of handshake. How would you know if you were confident in your ability to put yourself forward and ask for what you deserve? So these are, again, meant as opportunities for you to think about where you might wish to modify your personality temporarily to optimize your negotiation. But again, I want to stress that you are you, and you are perfect as you are. There's nothing wrong with modifying your personality for a situation. We do it all the time. But you don't have to do this. You might find it really effective, and you might find it useful in channeling your confidence and your comfort in going into a negotiation. Thanks for watching. If you want more videos on negotiation like this, then make sure you like this video and subscribe to my channel. Also, while you're here, leave me a comment. Tell me if this was helpful or how you plan on implementing what you learned. And if you want to support my work while you level up your negotiation skills, then head to the link below where you can purchase my negotiation guide. In the meantime, I want to thank you for watching. I will see you here next time.